Welcome to Mach 10 Sports, and appreciate you joining us for this segment. Man, what a gritty win by the Kentucky Wildcats. What a gritty win. I apologize. I picked Kentucky to lose this game. I thought Florida would win it in the swamp. I thought Kentucky struggled on the offensive line against Miami of Ohio the week before. I didn't think Will Levis was ready for it. But you know what I really underestimated? Was that Kentucky defense. Like, man, dude, they flying around. They made a statement. It was like they were playing with a chip on their shoulder. And they were stating it going into the week this past game against Florida that, hey, they hadn't seen a defense like us or a group of linebackers like us. And we're going to show Anthony Richardson what we're about. And they did. First, the Anthony Richardson hype train. I wasn't all aboard on it like a lot of people were after 1 week. I'm a guy you kind of got to have to show me consistently. Guy's still very developmental. There's a lot of tools there to like, though. There's a lot of tools. The guy has a very live arm, especially the intermediate route. You go look at the stats from his throws on the intermediate balls. They're very good. I think it's around 68%. You look at his short throws and his deep throws, struggling. The problem with the short throws right now is he has no touch or hand talent. There's just no touch. I think a lot of that is just natural. It kind of comes with it. And deep ball, same. Like, he doesn't know when to put enough air on it, change the trajectory a little bit to get it to his playmakers on the outside. He finished 14 for 35, 40% completion percentage for 143 yards and 2 sacks. Not very good numbers after a guy that was proclaimed to easily win the Heisman after last week. He got off to a bit of a hot start. Looked like he was coming out there off his Utah performance, but kept forcing throws into tight windows. Played a good defense, like I mentioned, with a great defensive staff led by their head coach, Mark Stoops. Felt like the offense just lacked a little trust in Richardson at times. Even in the half, they got the ball back, I think, with 1 minute and 20 seconds left, and just decided to run out the clock and not even try to get a field goal before half because Richardson just threw a pick when they were up 8 and kind of in control of the game to put Kentucky right back in it for the half. To be fair to Richardson, I'll give him this, and I've said this for the season. I don't think he has the weapons Florida's had before in the past. There's no Kadarius Toney, Trevon Grimes, Kyle Pitts. They have guys like Xavier Henderson, Justin Shorter, and Ricky Purcell. I mean, those are solid players, but they're not number one guys. And they lack speed and athleticism to be the vertical threats that take the top off defenses and be a threat for those secondaries. Moving to Will Levis, just kind of felt like Will Levis didn't lose the game. If you go back and watch the film, and even his stats, I mean, right here, 13 for 24, 54% completion percentage, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Now, to be fair to him, Florida was in his face all night. 3 sacks. Florida did to Kentucky's offensive line what I thought they would do after watching Kentucky play Miami, Ohio last week. Florida dominated them up front. Both of these defenses played really well. But Will Levis, I think he has the most talented arm in the league. Towards the end, you could just kind of tell Stoops knew, like, man, it's not there. They don't really trust Richardson to make plays. He's pretty turnover prone, lacking some confidence right now. So you could tell towards the end, middle of the fourth, beginning of the fourth, they were just trying to play it safe, run the football with Cavassier Smoke. Just, hey, let's stay ahead. Let's don't turn the ball over, and we can probably get out of here with a win. Will Levis wasn't overly impressed with him. Now, this was an interesting game from an NFL scouting standpoint from 2 guys that are projected to potentially go in the first round here with Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. And both just didn't really show me a ton. Not bad, just I feel like no one really won the game. I feel like Anthony Richardson more so lost the game, and Will Levis just was kind of just like, yeah, I'm just not going to go lose the game for my team. He just threw 1 interception. And then the play calling was just very conservative for Kentucky because I think they knew they could sit on their defense, rely on their defense, make, we can win this game as long as we just don't turn it over. Moving to the defenses, the Kentucky defense not only stopped Anthony Richardson through the air, but he also struggled to gain much traction on the ground. Only 4 yards on 6 carries. Very unlike him. That is not like him after seeing him play South Florida last year, third quarter against LSU, and in that first game against Utah. The Kentucky linebackers, to be fair to Anthony Richardson, maybe a top 2 linebacker unit that he'll see all year. They roll 4 deep, and there's not much drop off. I think Kentucky took the challenge personally going into the week that they were going to be physically up front and they were not going to get beat physically on defense. I think they got beat physically on offense. They did not get beat physically defensively. They whipped Florida up front. Getting Jordan Wright back, one of those linebackers I'm talking about, who did not play in that first game against Miami, Ohio, was crucial. He had the freak pick right before the half where Anthony Richardson's rolling out, trying to throw it out to the flats, a little short, easy route. He just puts his hands up right there and snatches it with one hand. You don't see it a lot, but that was a great play to set up a touchdown before going into the half. Like I always talk about, the middle 8 minutes, the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half usually tell the game, and Kentucky did a great job of taking advantage of that and winning the middle 8 minutes. I think Ventrell Miller going out in the 4 for Florida, injury-prone guy, but a veteran inside linebacker for Florida, was a struggle. You could tell Kentucky watched some of that Utah film and saw those Utah tight ends taking advantage of Florida's linebackers down there covering them. You saw they hit that a couple of times early and when Ventrell Miller went out. Kentucky's game plan was simple. Make Anthony Richardson beat us through the air with the wide receivers that we do not think are that great. And that's what they implemented, and that's what they did. Anthony Richardson did not have a great game. Almost was it was like he was pressing too hard. It just looked like Anthony Richardson was just trying to outdo Will Levis. And at some point, it just kind of looked like it was a little too big for him at moments. I still think the guy's a high upside, and I expect him to get better as the year goes on because I trust Billy Napier and that offensive staff. But it was interesting to just see it from one end of the spectrum for week 1, go all the way down to week 2. But I think a lot of that is the credit to the Kentucky defense and Mark Stoops. And let's move to offense for Kentucky. Let's don't forget about a guy I was a little down on after the first week. Thought it may take a little bit to get adjusted, and it still may. But you know what he did at halftime? A great second half adjustment by new OC, Rich Scangarello. He did a great job adjusting in the second half. Made second half adjustment in the run game and incorporated more play action. 70 net yards on 38 carries doesn't tell the story for Kentucky's running game. After the first series in the second half where they got shut down, they converted every big-time run, big-time third down they needed to. So big props to Kentucky run game, Kavosiey Smoke, and then the play calling, adding in the play action, just did not allow the Florida defensive line to just pin their ears back and just get after the backfield. They had to stop, retrace, make sure everything's there, and then go forward. They had to stop, retrace, make sure that, all right, it is a run. We got to hold up. It was a big adjustment in the second half that just the normal person wouldn't understand, but Rich Scangarello and that Kentucky offense in the second half won them that football game. That and the defense, the halftime adjustments, and on defense won Kentucky the football game this past weekend. And then finally, just to wrap this up, Kentucky's the better program than Florida right now. Just the overall better program than Florida. The Cats are now 3-2 in the last 5 years against Florida. The 2 they've lost were one-score games that Kentucky easily could have won. Kentucky just beat Florida for the first time, beat Florida back-to-back years for the first time since 1976, 1977. Napier's going to get Florida going. That's not what I'm saying. I have full faith he's going to get that. The guy's worked under 2 great ones, Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney. He has the blueprint. He has the staff in line. Give them a couple years. They'll be fine. But the offense was exposed this past week. They just got real conservative. I feel like they lost a little trust in Anthony Richardson. It'll be interesting to see how they use him in 2 weeks when they go to Knoxville in that big one. But you know what's shaping up to be a big one now that Kentucky won that and they hopped on the train to be like, hey, you know, we're competing for that second spot in the East. And I doubted them. And I apologize, Mark Stoops. But we got a big showdown we're staring at right in the face. We have a pair of undefeated teams. If Ole Miss can get it done against Georgia Tech this week, and Vanderbilt the next week, if Ole Miss can beat Georgia Tech on the road this week and beat Vandy on the road next week, you will have an undefeated showdown because Kentucky's got, I believe, who do they have? I feel like they got Northern Illinois and somebody else, 2 out-of-conference games they should get the wins against. That would set up a big showdown in Oxford, Mississippi in 2 weeks between an undefeated Kentucky Wildcat team and an undefeated Ole Miss Rebel team. That'll be critical in the standings. I said it was one of my domino games. It's shaping up to be another good one. I appreciate you joining us for this segment of Mock 10 Sports. You have a great night. Keep following us on Mock 10 Sports for the best information on SEC sports.